In the condo market, does it mean units become smaller as well?
I think inevitably one of the issues, and it's not unique to this cycle, but which we've seen in the past, is that as prices go up, you lose the bottom end of the market. There are people who want to buy who simply can't qualify, even with interest rates that historically are still quite reasonable. It simply exceeded wage gains to the point where a lot of people who I think are interested in buying housing simply can't afford housing, particularly at Chicago prices. The result is that developers are taking a look now, and I know we're looking at some projects where we're saying, in order to create housing that's available to those people, we have to go back and design smarter, more efficient buildings in an effort to keep costs as minimal as possible, and obviously smaller units are part of the solution.
Let me interrupt that. One of the smartest, most efficient units I ever saw, I introduced Allison to on the way down here, and that was the FitzGerald Reverse Corner 6.
Oh, the ubiquitous six-pack, I think.
It was called, developers called it the FitzGerald Reverse Corner 6. Whatever happened to it? What was it and whatever happened to it?
Well, that was a response to, the first of those buildings was actually built, I teamed with a couple of older people who actually had some money. As a young architect, I had none, and I convinced a contractor and another successful developer to put up the cash and bought a 50-foot corner lot and said, there's got to be something more interesting than you can do on a 50-foot corner lot than build a six-flat. So essentially what I designed was a horizontal six-flat, specifically 6 small townhomes that were really designed for single people and couples, not necessarily a space to raise families. I think early on, because I was part of that particular demographic, I realized that people coming into the city were not, in most cases, looking for places to raise family. They were looking for comfortable places to live, and that the traditionally defined family, if you will, had in essence become a lot more scarce, particularly as regards city development. And I think if you look at the last major census substantiates that, because now over 50% of American households have no children. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that, and I would stipulate that in large urban areas the percentage is probably much higher. And so what I saw was that we needed to develop housing for sort of non-traditional family, i.e. couples, be it married or not, same-sex or otherwise, older people who might have been divorced, widowed, that there were a lot of people who were interested in and could afford new housing but didn't need a 3-bedroom condo or house. So the little six-pack was essentially, as one 60-some-year-old gentleman who purchased one from us said, he says, I prefer to think of it as an indulgent 1-bedroom, because it did have a den and a family room and all these other spaces that could be turned into bedrooms, but it lived very well for a single person. It was a split-level townhome plan with 6-car garage off the alley. Interestingly enough, that building could not be built any longer under present zoning codes, because the townhome ordinance mandates certain things that building can't meet. But for a while they were popular, and it actually caused me a bit of a dilemma, because I never saw myself in the stock plan business per se. But people started calling up and asking if they could buy the plans to the building. So I turned to my then employer, Marty Reinheimer, who was an experienced hand with 35 years in the business and said, gee, what do I do? And he says, well, you know, in a business that depends on tracing paper as a tool of the trade, you really don't have a choice, because if you don't sell them the plans, they'll hire somebody else who will knock off what you did, and they'll get the money, and you'll be blamed for what they build. So in the end, we did accommodate some people. Interestingly enough, no two of those buildings are exactly alike, because there's no such thing as the perfect lot in Chicago. They're much more irregular than people think. And but I think there are probably maybe 6 or 8 of those buildings still out there, and most of them.
A lot more than that.
Well, yeah, who knows how many were built
They were popular
without our involvement.